Okay, so another day, another install, and this one is another modular system. That's because this client has gone for a battery only solution. So they had an Alpha G3 10.1 kilowatt hour battery that we installed about 2 months ago. They've been charging it up at night, and now they've decided they want to add some solar panels to this property. And we're doing it with the Enphase ACMs. We're putting 10 of those panels on this roof. We're going to connect it to that Alpha battery, but we're going to AC couple it. So let's take you through the install now.
You're right.
Do you know what? I've actually, embarrassingly, never seen one of these turn.
Have you not?
No. They look actually quite good, don't they?
They look really nice. They're
Okay, so battery is on the wall, is already been set up. We've actually got one of the new Alpha ESS 7 kilowatt chargers. Now, what's really cool about these is that they can talk to this battery, and what you can do is you can prevent the battery here going into your EV. That's a bit of a problem on most sort of solar systems, especially with batteries and chargers. Your car EV battery will be like 70 kilowatt hours. This is 10 kilowatt hours. What we don't want to do is dump 10 kilowatt hours into a 70 kilowatt hour battery. It's not really that efficient. That prevents that from happening. So, good bit of kit. Right, I was just saying off camera, we've not actually had one of these Alpha G3s powered up on site yet. I've been to so many where we've got to the end of the day and we've missed it, but not here. This is done and it actually looks pretty cool. The reason these are a little bit more expensive is because they are a much better built battery. It's an all-in-one unit, i.e. there's no exposed DC cables, there's no exposed connections, you've not got an inverter and separate battery cells. The construction is really solid and we have absolutely no problems about these. We always go on about Alpha on the channel, and it's purely because we have no aftercare issues, we have very, very, very little downtime from a server perspective, and it's almost fit and forget, so it's why we push them so hard. This is the G3. This has got a 5 kilowatt inverter and a 10.1 kilowatt hour energy storage battery. So this is the battery cell here. This is that 10.1 kilowatt hour. This is the inverter. Now in this configuration, this has been AC coupled. So what does that mean? Well, AC coupled means that this battery is independent of the actual solar system. However, what we are able to do is monitor a third-party solar system and optimize this battery around that system. Now, the alternative for it to be AC coupled would for it to be DC coupled. So a DC coupled solution is where the solar panels that are going on the roof here today would come down in DC straight into this side of the inverter. We take that DC and we can drop it straight into the actual battery cells without converting it. So there is some efficiency gain there because you're not converting it sort of 4 times, or you're only converting it when you need it to convert back to AC to power the home. But the reason we are AC coupling this system is a couple of reasons. The first was that it's a modular system, so the client has chose to put their battery in first. They were charging this on an off-peak tariff, so for about 7 pence at night. They were filling all 10.1 kilowatt hours up, and that was running through the day and powering the home. The challenge we have is that by about 5 o'clock, it was running out of power because this house uses quite a bit of energy. So what we've done is we've added those solar panels, and those solar panels do 2 things. First of all, when the sun's out or when it's bright, the panels are powering the home so the battery doesn't need to discharge. Now, what that means is the battery has to do less work in the day, so at night time it still has capacity to run the home until that 12 p.m. Recharge time comes around. Is it 12 p.m. or 12 a.m? Going to run the home. Okay, wait, can I put it on camera? Is it 12 a.m?
Is it 12 a.m? What do you mean?
What's like midnight?
Midnight is 12. 12 p.m. is midday.
So 12 a.m. is midnight.
It's 12 past midnight, right?
This is ridiculous. Well, it doesn't really matter. Look, at night time, it's going to kick in again, yeah? and then it's going to be able to charge up again. So the plan here is basically to have the system powering the home in the day, so the battery lasts longer. And the reason that we've AC coupled it is because the client wanted to go for microinverters, because this is a bungalow that's quite low. It's got trees all the way around it, and there's potential for some shading. We have also gone for microinverters because in the middle of the day, they work from home and they use quite a bit of power. And when you have an AC coupled system, you can actually provide more power to the home because you've got two generators. You've got solar panels providing power to the home, and you've got the battery providing up to 5 kilowatt here. If you did this as a hybrid system, you are always limited by the maximum rating of the inverter. So if you pulled more than 5 kilowatt with this inverter, you would take the surplus from the grid. But with this AC coupled solution, if we pull like 7 kilowatt in the home, 5 can come from the battery, and the panels could do the 2 kilowatt, and we're not taking from the grid. We've got a real design flaw on this Alpha, which is there's a screw holding this cover to the actual inverter, and there is not a screwdriver other than a really cheap, nasty, long one that will fit. So we're going to take the cover off now because we want to show you some of the wiring connections and how you can hybrid or AC couple this battery. So I'm going to get a screwdriver and back in a minute. Oh, Mike. Oh. Is this a petrol station JCB?
Oh, look at that. There you go.
You done it?
Yeah.
There's some feedback there for the Alpha team.
Make your box the same as a wearer screwdriver.
All right, thank you very much for doing that. Okay, so we took the cover off. It's a bit dark in here, unfortunately. We haven't got a light, so apologies if this looks a bit low quality. But anyway, what is under this cover? Well, because we've AC coupled the battery, essentially we only have one cable going into product, and it's this AC grid cable here. So this goes straight into this inverter, and what this inverter does is take DC energy out of the battery, convert it to AC power, and that is what is powering our home because we've charged this up at night. Now the alternative to this, and this is where these products are really smart, is it's actually got a built-in hybrid inverter. So you've got two strings, and with the Alpha hybrid inverters, you can have up to 200% of the inverter rating as PV. So this is a 5 kilowatt inverter. You can put up to 10 kilowatts of solar power in here across two strings with two MPPTs. And also what's really cool is on this G3 range, you can do something called parallel the battery. So if you need more than 5 kilowatts or you want more storage, but you've only got a short window to charge it up and you need more power, then Alpha do something called a parallel kit. And what this does is put one 5 kilowatt inverter, another 5 kilowatt inverter, and it makes them 10. So you could have maybe 10 kilowatt hours of storage underneath this one and 10 kilowatt hours of storage underneath this one. That's 20 kilowatt hours, and you've got 10 kilowatts of power to charge and discharge it. So it's a really, really good system, especially when you think like a Tesla Powerwall 3 has got a rated inverter power at 11 kilowatt. Everyone goes wild about. Well, with two Alphas, you can have 10 kilowatt, and it probably works out cheaper to have two separate Alphas with 20 kilowatt hours of storage than it does one Tesla Powerwall 3. Other stuff under here, some basic things. So you've got some connections. This is your BMS cable going into your batteries. This is where the inverter, sort of controls and monitors the battery cell. Then we've got a grid and a PV connection kit. So this uses something called a DTSU, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And that DTSU can monitor the grid to make sure that we're not exporting energy, we want to be recovering that energy, but also it can monitor solar. So we're going to put an Enphase solar system on this property. Although it's not running through this battery can see it. It will show in the Alpha app along with the charger, and it can recover any energy that's going from the PV that was going to the grid, or if it sees the PV covering the load in the house, the battery will step away, let the PV do the work, supplement any load the PV can't manage, and as that PV drops away, the battery goes back in to power the home. So it's a really powerful system. there's one more thing. Wi-Fi dongle is what connects to the client's Wi-Fi, and that's what gives you that sort of smart control and that app view. If you've got a really poor Wi-Fi signal, then Alpha actually do a dongle, a 5G dongle that goes in here, and that will give you that cloud connection. I think it lasts for like 5 or 10 years, but a smarter bit of kit if you get stuck without Wi-Fi. Yeah, very good. So I just wanted to run you through the locations and why certain things have been placed in the locations they have on this solar and battery solution. So the battery is in this little carport here, and there's two benefits to that. One of them is the client has the charger here, and they charge their EV at this end of the driveway. So having the EV near the battery makes it super helpful for us because we've got that communication link between the EV charger and the actual battery itself. The second one is weather rating. So this is actually a full IP rated battery solution. It can go outside, it can get wet, it can get rained on, there's no problems at all. But where possible, we always like to shelter them. So putting it under here sort of makes sense. It's out of the way. It's only a very shallow battery, so it doesn't stop the vehicle getting into this little carport here. And when it's super cold or you get driven winds, all that kind of stuff, it's not really going to drop any performance with the battery itself. So that's why it's in here. But what we had to do to put it in here is wire it all the way around to the other end of the fuse board, and we did that here. So this is the isolator. So the power from the fuse board, the incomer rather, comes all the way up in this armored cable, into this, and then down into our battery itself. What we've also run down here, this is the data cable that's linking to that DTSU meter that I'm going to show you in a second. Now, the meter box is on the other side of the house. We got really lucky on this property because it's got this gravel driveway. So we ran the cables here, and then we were able to drop them down underneath all this shale and gravel, dig down and run them all the way across, very snazzy panels, under here. So they pop up over there. Okay, so those cables lead into this. This is our consumer unit, or our sub-mains that comes outside. Now we've got those two cables, one from the charger, one from the battery. They come up here through these glands and they go into this DB, and this DB is in an IP rated external box. Where possible, we try and get these inside, but on this job we had no space, we've had to put it outside. Now within this, on the DIN rail, is that meter. So that's that DTSU meter that controls the battery. That essentially tells the battery what's going on with the system, whether we're pulling from the grid, whether we're sending energy from the grid, and we can actually link that meter to our Enphase system, which is up here. So the client on this job, like we said before, has gone for an AC coupled solar solution. Obviously here at Heatable, we use the ACM. This is the REA Fusion 2 solar panel with the built-in integrated Enphase microinverter. Well, microinverters need, again, their brain, they need their eyes on the system, and that's done via this. This is the Enphase Envoy. So this is the control center to manage the PV system. So from this DTSU meter, there will be a CT clamp that goes around the power from our solar system. So all the production from the solar system is monitored by the Alpha DTSU, and that is what gives the Alpha system the eyes on the solar. Now, Enphase doesn't know there's a battery on the system because we're not using an Enphase battery, but Enphase doesn't need to worry about that. What Enphase needs to do is take power from that roof and send it down to this control unit, and that is done via this. So this sits in a little container here, and we've run some conduit across, nice little black conduit up. We've got black gutters on this property, and that's where we're accessing the power for the roof. So we're going to jump on the roof now and I'll show you the layout of the panels and what these ACMs are.
There are no problems, only solutions.
You join me on the roof, and that's because we're fitting the rails, and we've also got our Q cable So this is the connection for the Enphase system. So if you don't have this system, then you have something called MC4s because you've got a DC connection and you need to crimp and make off an MC4. The beauty of the Enphase system is it's all in AC, so you literally just plug that into the panel, and that's about as complex it gets. Because a lot of the roof work is done by roofers, not electricians, and what you don't want is a roofer attempting to do an MC4 because it's probably not going to end well, especially if it starts to arc. So let's take a look at this roof while we're here. These are the rails, these are now on the system. This is what the panels are actually going to mount to. And we showed you earlier on about us grinding out that tile so we can get that bracket to sit. What that does, if you look here, what that does is mean that this bracket sits flush, and what it doesn't mean is the tile is popping up.
Thank you, I'll catch you back in 2 secs.
This is one of the roof tiles, and as you can see, these have got so much material on them. What we don't want to do is put a roof hook underneath that, which is probably about as thick as my little finger, that's going to step that off the roof. So what we've done is ground out a little hole in the back, and that's where the hook will sit. Now, this is a bit of a luxury, this tile, because it's got so much material on it that we're not really going to compromise the overall sort of strength of the actual tile. What you've got to be really careful on is if your tiles on your roof are already that thin and you want to take that much out of it, it's basically impossible. So you have got other options. You can cut round them, you can flash them. Sometimes you can get them to sit a bit nicer depending on the type of bracket it is. But when we've got loads of material like that, then we grind them out. Go and give it back because I think we've annoyed him taking it off him. The next thing to do now is to get this upper tier of rails on. Then we're going to fit some of the panels. We're going to see if we can get one of the guys on camera to talk you through what he's been doing today, maybe do a better explanation than I have. And then we'll get them all wired up and get it commissioned and I can go home.
So obviously because it's an Enphase system, the AC supply comes from the gateway up into the panels, which is junction boxed at the rail, and then the Enphase link cables go to the back of each microinverter, so they get tagged along to a position for each panel. It gives the customer a lot more flexibility to see what each panel is doing individually, so they can monitor and they can see how much production each panel is producing. So the way we do that is we map each panel as it's laid through the toolkit on the Enphase software to give the customer the greatest flexibility to see what the system's producing.
Have you put any cream on that massive spot on your head?
Buddy, better not have. Okay, so we're just about to finish off railing off the roof. Once we've got that done, we'll start bringing up panels. And then once, before each panel's laid, we'll scan the barcode that registered it on the Enphase system. That'll show it on the map.
So the panels we've got on this job are the REA Fusion 2 440 watt bifacial HJT ACMs. I remember all that. So this is the panel here. Now from the front, and when it's stacked up like these ones here, it just looks like a normal solar panel. If you watch the channel, you've probably seen these before, but if you're new to the channel, these are a really interesting panel. So they're a bifacial panel, which means they've got cells on the front, but they've also got cells on the back. And to maximize the amount of light that can get to the back of that panel, they have a clear back sheet that allows the light to get through. So it can go around the panel. Obviously light is in the atmosphere. It's not always about direct sunlight, it's just light in the atmosphere. What this clear back sheet does is maximize that performance. Now what's interesting about the ACM version of this panel is this one we prepared earlier. So these are assembled in Australia by the REA team. This is an Enphase IQ8 HC ACM. So this is the world's most powerful ACM, and an ACM is an AC module. So it's a PV module that comes from factory with this Enphase microinverter bonded to the panel. Now why that is useful is every one of these is a mini power plant. They are fully independent of their neighbours. So if one panel's got some partial shading, like the trees we've got over there, it's not going to affect this panel. If this panel has a failure, it's not going to affect the neighbouring panel. So what it also does is convert that DC energy to usable AC energy on the roof. And the other advantage of this is this Enphase cradle that is bonded to this panel allows the inverter to be pulled away from the panel, and that allows air to get around it and keeps it nice and cool. And the advantages don't just stop there, because you've also got the warranty. So the warranty on this ACM is 25 years. So your panel and your inverter are both covered by a manufacturer's warranty. And what this does is it reduces the overall cost of maintenance over the life of your solar system.
So each connector goes into basically into the back of there. So we pull that off, and then you can just put the connector into there. So that's what I was saying about each one's got its own serial number. So then that's how we map it onto the toolkit. I'm going to just change the design slightly on this. So we're just going to change you can basically live change any of the system. Grab that panel, put that one over there, that one over there. So that's going to give us our 10 panels. Each roof is always completely individual, so you never really know where the panels are going to lay until you actually start laying the hooks and the rails down. With the best designs in the world, sometimes it's always going to be slightly different. The original design was to have 2 panels sitting over the apex of the roof over there, but it hasn't quite worked out that way, so we've kind of adapted the design to have a block of 2 and then a block of 10 just to make the full array work. You go in. Cool, man. Thanks very much.
Nice to meet
Appreciate it,
you, mate. Not a problem.
So even in this extremely low light, it's only producing 1614 watt, but it's already going straight into the house and exporting 7 watts as well. So that's a good day. All pretty happy with that.
All right, okay, so it's the end of the day now. The guys are just finishing up, cleaning down and doing the handover with the client. And we hope you enjoyed the video. Obviously, what we're trying to share with you here is these modular systems. This is when people are doing renewable projects in piecemeal. So this client here had a battery only system, and like we said, I'm repeating myself, but he was charging it up at night and he was getting loads of cheap energy, but he wanted to add solar. And what we were able to do is come back and fit that AC coupled Enphase REA Fusion 2 ACM HJT solution for him. So if you're interested in getting a system like this, then head over to the Heatable website and we'll be able to give you a fixed price, either for a battery, maybe for a solar system, or both. And don't forget, if you like the video, please press like, and if you want to subscribe to our channel, we'd really appreciate that. It helps us produce more of this content.